a couple people asked about the Jalen Carter situation. I know it's on our thumbnail, so I'll refresh and reset the deck for people who weren't here quickly. This happened about an hour ago now. Jalen Carter from Pro Football Talk faces lawsuit in death of former teammate Devin Willock. And essentially what's happening is Dave Willock, I think I'm saying his last name correctly. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. He's seeking $40 million in a case filed Tuesday against the school's athletic association, Carter, and others. The suit alleges wrongful death, negligent hiring, and negligence. Essentially what's happening here, he's seeking $30 million from the defendants in compensatory damages and an additional $10 million in punitive damages from Carter. It alleges Carter had a pattern of excessive speeding that the car dealership should have taken under consideration for multiple speeding tickets. He previously was fined $1,000 after being cited for nearly going 90 in a 45. So the father of the Georgia player who passed away in the car accident, which again, Jalen Carter was not behind the wheel for that, but he was driving his Jeep that was given to him in an NIL deal from what seems to be some sort of nightclub. That's where this is all kind of stemming from. And Josh and I both talked about this earlier. Anytime you mention loss of life and an off-the-field issue, on-the-field stuff seems a lot less important. But if you put that aside for a second, you just focus on the on-the-field situation, it won't affect him in terms of playing. He's not going to get suspended. He's not going to be fined by the NFL. This will be handled by lawyers off the football field to the point that he might not even deal with it. Let his lawyers do so. Just probably cost him some money out of his pocketbook. But what I do worry about, we said this at the opener, 45 minutes ago, is this going to loom? And I think you said this, Josh. Does this hover around him a little bit as he's trying to make the transition from a college player, a college young man, to a grown adult who works for a living, who gets paid to play football for real, with all the expectation to be the 9th overall draft pick? He's got to make sure he's right mentally in order to get on the football field, block everything out, and be the best type of player that he can be, which Philadelphia traded up to get in the number 9 overall draft pick. So we will see very, very soon what's going to happen. But like Vic just said, everybody sues everybody, and that seems to be the case at this point in this situation.
Yeah, not too surprising. Yeah, exactly. You see lawsuits for every type of scenario, but like we said earlier, again, it comes down to, is this something, I think from Jalen's side, like you just mentioned and spoke to very clearly and very well, is he's probably got the legal team that's going to handle it. The Eagles are going to deal with that all off the field, but it's the psyche, it's the mental part of the game. And is Jalen Carter going to be able to kind of focus and say, you know what, I've got to get focused on my game here. I've got to continue to progress and get better and improve and be ready to play NFL football. And that's, a big undertaking, regardless of he's got insane talent. And everybody knows that the potential is through the roof and he's incredible. But like we talked to you about earlier, I mean, you've got a little bit of some, track record of, I don't know, a little bit of risky, like, is he going to be able to, because the pro day he didn't show up for great. And there's some other, issues of like, okay, is he going to be able to keep focused? Is he going to be distracted? Is this going to loom over him and make a bigger deal out of something? So I don't know. And we won't really know until we get to the regular season. Because like you mentioned, he may not play much in the preseason. So it might just be, hey, week 1, here we go. Let's see how it's going to turn out.
Well, and let's just not sugarcoat things. Jalen Carter has to grow up. He has to be a big boy. He has to be an adult now. I mean, the college kids make college mistakes. We all were in college at some point, and you and I were, quote unquote, good kids and still did things in college that we probably, look back on with a little bit of embarrassment. Nothing to this level, but he's got to grow up. You are now getting paid to be an adult. You're in the working force of America now, where you have a job that you must show up to. You must perform at a high level, and it's a little different because you're in the NFL. We're going to pay you tens of millions of dollars to go out there and win for us, and that's a simple truth. No more, being a young college kid. I know that just a couple months doesn't change his age, and just college kid a couple months ago, and now he's a working man adult. But still, he does need to grow up. He needs to make smart decisions off the football field. He needs to be smart about what he puts on social media, what he says to people, who he hangs out with. All these things are true for every single NFL player. But when you're underneath a little bit of a microscope, like Jalen Carter will be for at least the first year in the NFL, if not a little bit longer, just make big boy smart decisions and you will have no issues. And if you go out there and ball out while making big boy smart decisions, everybody in Philadelphia will love you for a very, very, very long time. So we can sugarcoat things and we can talk about, the mental side of this, the mental side of that, and what happens off the football field. But in the end, just grow up, prove to us you're an adult, prove to us that we're all right about you. We think you're really good, and go out there and win football games, and everybody in the NFL will be very happy. I think it's that simple.
And thankfully, he does have the right group around him. I think Mr.
Yes.
Rivera there on the comment
Yes.
says right team with great teammates that could help him out. Yes, he's got accountability partners. You've seen in the interviews Nolan Smith right beside him. He's got obviously with Jordan Davis, who was a very big mentor. And Jalen Carter's mentioned multiple times how he helped him whenever he was at Georgia. So he's got the guys that he feels comfortable with, that he looks up to, that can really kind of circle around him and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Because again, it's easy to forget sometimes when we see the massive contracts and they're in the NFL and everything else. But like you mentioned, I mean, he's 22. Like, it didn't change because in a month, he went from being a college kid to being an NFL player. But it does in terms of the scrutiny, and he's opened himself up to more of it, obviously, with the issues here and now the lawsuit. But I think there's not a better setup, and that is obviously why Howie Roseman and the Eagles took him, because they believe in him. They believe in the Georgia program. And you got to believe, too, they're getting other info, too, from Kirby Smart. I mean, Kirby Smart's name hasn't come up a whole lot. It's been, hey, the Georgia Dogs and the players and everything else. But Howie Roseman was at the Georgia practice last season. So he's got insight from Kirby Smart as well of, hey, I need to know about this player here. So I'm not concerned about it. I do think that this is the right group. And you also mentioned just the other leaders. We don't have to say that they're Georgia players, but you've got Jalen Hurts, you got Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. Like, he's got some really great guys to look up to. So I do think it will be okay. But yes, to your point, he has to grow up. And that's just a fact of every player, not just Jalen Carter, every player, every rookie who's been drafted. Unfortunately, he's going to get scrutinized, like you said, for at least the first year, a lot more than other rookies will.
A lot of people mentioning these things in the comment section in terms of, do we really think that Howie Roseman would have spent the 9th overall pick on someone he didn't think would stay out of trouble? I mean, that's part of this. Yes, we do think that they did their due diligence. And I've been saying this, all the time, that NFL teams employ CIA level operatives to these schools to meet with people. I mean, it's not that serious, but it is. I mean, they are meeting with Jalen Carter's friends and his family and the people that he hangs out with, and maybe, someone he dated. I mean, they're going everywhere for every single draft pick, and I'm sure they did their due diligence. It's fine.
They learn everything about you that you even forgot about yourself. It's kind of like, oh gosh, I didn't even remember that. So yeah, they're totally on top of it.
Cool Rain says Josh could sue Thomas for nothing. That's true. You could sue anybody. That is a very good point.
Don't give me any ideas.
You never know. Cool Rain says everyone in Philly is so mature. Jalen should be fine. I totally agree. Let's switch topics here to one that we didn't talk about pre-show. Let's talk about the Punt God for a second here, because I've debated doing a show on Matt. I think Araiza, however you say his last name. You didn't see this. He obviously had the allegations of, let's just say, gang rape during his time in college, which was horrific. He was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, hit historically that 82-yard punt in preseason, and then he was immediately cut when these allegations came out, as it normally happens. And there are some people from the beginning of this who said Buffalo should have waited. NFL teams don't wait when you see gang rape involved with one of your players. They move on, and they'll figure it out later. That's how it works. But now it's come out, and there have been reports saying that he was not present at the time of the assault, and you can read more about that online. And I've seen a lot of people comment on my show, and I'm guessing yours as well, saying we should sign the Punt God. And so let's at least address that right now. I don't think Philadelphia will do it. I think that the issue is the name still has a negative connotation around it, as unfair as it is. And trust me, it's very unfair. I mean, if you lie about this sort of thing from the other side and you ruin someone's life, that's ridiculous, and that alone should be punishable. But that's not the point right now. I think they got to make sure that the name gets fully cleared before going ahead and making a move for somebody who's not critical to your team winning a Super Bowl. Sure, we like someone better than Siposs, but I think the kid from Kansas State that they got, you saw that punt during minicamp, looks pretty good. I just think, to answer the question that we keep getting asked, I don't think they're going to go out and sign the Punt God anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and appreciate Matthew Araiza, I guess, is the Araiza. Yeah,
there you go.
But they've got Ty Zentner, and that's kind of all that you need to have, really, because you've got the competition with Siposs, and if you think about it, to your point there, you've already got this Jalen Carter thing. And I know we mentioned it with the lawsuit, but it would be adding extra insult to injury, so to speak. And you've already got some publicity here that's kind of like, look, we probably expected this. It's not really unexpected, I don't think, from the Eagles organization or Howie. But if you add that in with Araiza, then all of a sudden you're going, okay, we're opening up a whole new can of worms that the media is going to give us absolute hell for several days or weeks or months, leading up to the season. Is it really worth it? Probably not at this point, because they just got Zentner. Let's give him a shot. If all of a sudden you're going months down the line, like you just talked about, that everything's cleared up, then sure, you might see it. But I agree with you. I don't think that it's something, a risk that they're worth taking or that they're going to consider.
I think we both wish him the best. And the situation is horrible to be falsely accused of something in which you were never even present during the said incident happened. It's ridiculous, but I think Philadelphia, from a strictly football standpoint, which we talk about all the time here, will be staying away from that situation at the present moment, which is my best guess overall.